So I was born in a small Midwestern town. Not much happened in this town. It was pretty much a average, boring town. I mean, you could call it normal. You would call it normal because the name of the town was actually Normal. Normal, Illinois. And it was smack dab in the middle of the state. I was like smack dab in the middle of the bell curve, right there. And it just, not much happened. It was a college town, Illinois State University, go Redbirds. So like 9 months out of the year, it was somewhat interesting because you had an extra 20,000 college students running around. If nothing else, you got to see how frustrated your mom was going to be trying to drive across town and avoid those 20,000 students. But in the summertime, they disappeared and it just became a ghost town. We lived on the edge of town. Our backyard ended at a cornfield. And we didn't even have like real streets. The asphalt hadn't made it out that far. And what we had was gravel that they then poured tar on top of. So it became this sort of mix of gravel and tar, which was fine most of the year. But then in the summertime, the tar would just bubble up through the gravel. It was like living next to the La Brea tar pits. And shoes were optional in my childhood. And so out we'd go, right? And but we'd come home, and usually we'd have tar all over our feet. But we were not allowed in the house with tar on our feet. We knew that that was trouble. So we'd stand in the driveway, and we'd just yell for my dad. Be like, Dad, 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 my dad. And eventually he would hear us, unless it was a St. Louis Cardinals game on, and we had to wait for the 7th inning stretch before he'd appear. But out he'd come with a container of turpentine and a rag, and he'd plop us down, and we'd proceed to just rub that turpentine all over our feet to get the tar off. Like, whenever I smell turpentine, it smells like childhood. So, rather than be covered with sunscreen and hand sanitizer, we were covered with tar and then turpentine. My childhood. So it's very boring in the summertime. There's not much going on. There's only 4 TV channels. One of them's PBS. That doesn't count because we did not want to be educated. It was summer. And those other 3 channels, they just had reruns. And so being on that deserted isle with Gilligan and the rest of them was not entertainment, especially in the rerun form. So out we'd go into the world, and just like feral cats and dogs, roamed around trying to find other kids that were bored, because I knew that the plural boredom was much better than the singular boredom. So if you could find a group of other kids that were also bored, it would be more entertaining than being bored by yourself. And we often ended up at the elementary school down the street. Not sure why, because it was just flat black asphalt with monochromatic metal jumble of jungle gyms and slides at that point in mid-July with the surface of the sun, temperature-wise. But there we were, and at mid-July is when the boredom just really hit the crescendo. That was when the boredom, the thrill of being done with school was like long gone. And we were so desperate, we almost wanted school to start again. So we're down at the school, riding around, wondering what we could do. And they say that necessity is the mother of invention. Well, boredom is the mother of devious behavior. And one day a miracle occurred, a miracle. I don't know who discovered this, whether it was Mark or Scott or Randy. I think it might have been Mark, because Mark went to that school. Well, all the kids, that the professors who taught at the college, their kids went to this school, so we thought he was smarter. And whoever thought of it, somebody who has a much better grasp of physics and geometry and architecture, they figured out that there was a telephone pole was just a little too close to the school. And you could shimmy your way up, and you could get on the roof. The roof! You could get on the roof. This was a game changer. This was what we were looking for. And before we knew it, within 3 or 4 days, kids from all around, no text messages, no nothing, just telepathy. They were like, I think there's something going on at Oakdale Elementary School. Let's get over there. So there we were, and they'd show up to either participate in this illegal and devious behavior or to watch it. And so I watched it for a few days. And because I'm a rule follower, very careful kid, I'm a rule follower. But something in me snapped, and I wanted to get up on that roof. I wanted to know what was up there. Like, was that red playground ball that I kicked up there in 3rd grade? Was that there? Because I'm 11, I'm going into 6th grade, and I want some action. So I decided I'm going to do it. One day, I get off my bike, I put the kickstand down, and I make sure it's not going to fall because I'm a careful kid. And I go over to the pole, and there's a circle of kids around the pole. And they see me coming, and they sort of open and apart like the Red Sea. I walk in, they close back up again. So I put one hand on the pole, another hand on the school, one foot on the pole, foot on the school, and I start to work my way up. And 2 things I realized right away. 1, it's a lot harder than it looked. And 2, if I were to fall, I was going to be in a lot of pain because this arm was going to be shredded by the brick wall of the school. And this arm was going to be full of creosote splinters. And I knew that if there was creosote, there was going to be turpentine involved, and that was going to hurt a lot. So I kept my way up with shaky legs until I finally got to the top, pulled myself up, jumped across the parapet, and I was there. I was victorious. I was on the roof. I was on the roof of the school. Thank you. I was victorious. I looked down on those standing around the pole. Minions, gaze upon me. I am one of the rooftop tribe. And then I looked across the playground. I could see the creek behind the playground. I could see the houses, the hill. I could see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to my house. I could see the backyard of my house. I could see my mom, in the backyard of my house. And I'm 300 yards away, but still, it's my mom. So I took a few cautionary steps backward. I looked around, and the rest of us looked around. Me and the rooftop tribe set off to explore. Now, the school was built in a very haphazard way because whenever enough kids came into the neighborhood, they would just add another addition to the school. And so every addition had a different roof elevation. So it was kind of like just a really badly designed rooftop steeplechase. So off we went, up and over and around and through and under until we made it to the other side to see what was there. It was a parking lot, sure, but there was houses, there were cars. And we stood and looked at our domain. And then we realized there was a janitor looking up at us as we were looking down at him. He screamed, we screamed. We all turned around en masse and we ran across the roof, up, down, around, through, under, over the steeplechase until we got back to the pole. And at that moment we realized that was not an exit option. And like the Titanic, we were not all going to make it off of that ship. So we turned once again as a group and we raced to the lowest part of the school, and like lemmings off the cliff, we just flung ourselves off, landed on the grass below, got up, jumped on our bikes, and then rode nonchalantly around the asphalt. About a minute later, the janitor comes roaring around the corner, comes running up to us. He's all red-faced and sweaty because it's July. It's like 90 degrees out there. And he comes up and stops. And looks at each one of us. And then he says, "Hey, did you guys see any kids up on the roof?" So we looked at each other, stunned silent. Could it be that he does not know that we are the kids on the roof? Finally, somebody, Mark again, was smart enough to say, "Well, yes. Yes, we did." And they went that way. The janitor went that way, and we went this way, and rode off, having made the great Oakdale Elementary School rooftop escape. Now, I couldn't go home right away because my mom, she could spot. If I had done something wrong, she just knew right away. So I had to wait like 2 to 6 hours before I could actually go home and see my mom until sort of the aura of whatever I had done had washed away. And school started a couple weeks later, and the boredom dissipated. But every time I was out on that playground, I would see that pole. And I would know that I had the superpower. I would know that at any time I could get on the roof. The roof! Thank you.